but Bruce Arians said the priority is keeping this team together, adding, quote, if we could just keep 5 or 6 and keep the closeness and the accountability factor that we have in the locker room. LeVar Arrington, should Brady feel good about Tampa's chances next year?
So I just had a conversation on my radio show with Byron Leftwich, and we had a great conversation about the free agent situation. He says he didn't feel bad about not taking any, head coaching interviews because he's confident about what they have in Tampa Bay. When asked about the free agent situation, he said he feels confident that they're going to sign guys. I was very, very intrigued by him bringing up the fact that guys like Mike Evans and other guys in that locker room said, if I got to take less for us to be able to sign guys like Godwin back to this team and Barrett back to this team, that's exactly what I'll do. It seems as though the character that is connected with this group of guys in that locker room could give way to them having enough of an opportunity to get these free agents to accept what it is that they're being offered in a fair manner. Don't be sitting there talking crazy about me like, LeVar, they're not going to take the hometown discount. I get all that, but it seems as though they feel like they have something special in Tampa Bay, and I believe that the guys that are most important for them to get signed back to the team, I believe they'll get them signed back. And with that being said, I do believe that Tampa Bay, with the way that they emerged and gelled together in a COVID year without a true offseason to prepare and come together to actually put together a Super Bowl run, if they get those key parts back that are in free agency right now, I do believe that they are a team to contend with that could possibly compete for a Super Bowl again this upcoming season.
Broussard, you got Tampa Bay going back to the Super Bowl?
Well, I'll reserve my prediction for closer to next season. But right now, I think there's a great chance we see a rematch of Kansas City and Tampa Bay in the Super Bowl. I do think Tampa Bay should enter the season as the favorite. Right now, they should be the favorite in the NFC, depending on, who they sign. And if I'm them, I want to bring back Shaq Barrett, Levante David, and to a lesser degree, I do want to bring back Ndamukong Suh. If I were to lose him, I'd be going after a J.J. Watt or somebody like that. And then offensive, I think those are the priorities. Because on the other side of the ball, look, I don't think anybody's going to throw the bank at Leonard Fournette.
They don't need
This is a guy that was cut in Jacksonville. It's a running back position. I think people will look at him, Antonio Brown, and Gronk and say, they're not going to do for us what they did for Tampa Bay. Okay, Antonio, we don't know. He's going to behave one way with Tom Brady and maybe another way here or elsewhere. Gronk, we know he doesn't want to play with anybody but Tom Brady. That's the only reason he's out of retirement. And then Fournette, again, I don't think he does this anywhere else. So I think they can bring those 3 guys back for fairly cheap money. Chris Godwin, you may need to lose him. Chris Godwin now has his Super Bowl. He is a top receiver. He might get a big offer from someone else. And if I'm Tampa Bay, I'm not breaking the bank to bring him back. I like him a lot. But even without him, I've got Mike Evans. I think Antonio Brown could have a big season next year. And then you still got Scotty Miller and the rookie Tyler Johnson. Brady loves him. He showed some things last season. And then you have all those tight ends. So all that being said, I do think Tampa's going to be better for the reasons you said, LeVar. I think they're going to be more comfortable together, more comfortable in their offense. That defense is going to be even more confident. It was getting better as the playoffs went on. So, yeah, I think Tampa Bay should be the favorite to get to the Super Bowl in the NFC right now.
So the gambling markets favor the Packers slightly over the Bucs as the favorite to get to the Super Bowl. But I do need to point out, Chris, all those guys you mentioned, Antonio Brown, Gronk, and Fournette, they scored all the touchdowns in the Super Bowl, all right? And all of them are free agents. 7 starters from the Super Bowl are free agents for the Bucs. I don't think this is as easy as Bruce Arians is making it out to be. Like, you lose Chris Godwin. I mean, he's one of the top 7 or 8 receivers in the league. So you got to break the bank for him. You can't franchise tag everybody, right? I mean, Shaq Barrett had 4 sacks in the postseason. He is one of the best edge rushers in the league over the last 2 years. Like, there's a lot of pieces you need to replace. Levante David, LeVar, you talked about it. You were a linebacker.
Him back.
He is the heart and soul of that locker room.
Yes.
Okay, Devin White's a great linebacker, young guy. He has even said, Levante David, man, we need that guy. He is our locker room. So all of a sudden, now you're like, geez, we need everybody to come back. I do think Gronk is probably the one expendable guy. O.J. Howard, of course, was injured, the great tight end out of Alabama. He missed the season. You know, Gronk, if he walks off into the sunset, he's got a lot of money in the bank. He's got a pro wrestling career ahead of him. He's all good. But I do think this is going to be a bit of a challenge. Fournette, by the way, had a monster Super Bowl. He was great in the postseason. He has said he does not want to split carries. He still thinks he can be the guy. I don't know that to be the case, but somebody will throw some money at him. I personally like the L.A. Rams right now as my team in the NFC to make a run. It's the Rams, Packers, and Bucs, and I really like that Matt Stafford addition for the Rams. LeVar, you like the Rams as well?
I'm not a big Matt Stafford guy.
Okay.
I think that his stats hide a lot of the realness of the player that he truly is within all the things that we use to measure him. But I like this Rams team, and that's where I was sitting there in my mind. I was thinking, it's like Green Bay, I get that because as long as they got Aaron Rodgers, and they got to get Aaron Jones as well to cooperate. As long as Green Bay has Aaron Rodgers, they're going to be a contender. But I look at this Rams team, after they took that step back after their Super Bowl appearance, seeing them this year, that defense is so impressive. They have so many impressive weapons on that team in general. I will say this, Matthew Stafford is an upgrade to what they had in Jared Goff. And by adding that leadership, that chip on your shoulder, that we've come up short mentality that Matthew Stafford has had, I think this team improves to the tune of possibly challenging a Tampa Bay team or a Green Bay team, just like as close as they were this year. I think that they're that one team that you definitely got to keep an eye on in terms of being a contender for the Super Bowl.
Can I ask you about Washington if they get a quarterback? Okay, we saw the defense was incredible. We just talked about Cam Newton. Ron Rivera's coaching there. I don't know if he wants Cam, but if Washington can get a quarterback, that division is really down with the Eagles losing Wentz, the Giants being a dumpster fire, the Cowboys, a lot of questions about Dak. Is Washington a legit contender in the NFC?
The way they finished the season was phenomenal. And you got to believe that it was the leadership of Alex Smith that was the catalyst of this team really being able to make the run that they did. A lot of people looked at it as the NFC East was the NFC least, and so it wasn't so impressive to make it out of the NFC East into the playoffs as a team. But when I looked at that playoff game, you can't tell me if they don't have Alex Smith in that game, they don't win that game. They had the Rookie of the Year on the defensive side of the ball. The guy on the other side of Chase Young might be better than him in Montez Sweat. You got John Allen, Big John Allen and Payne and a few others company in the center of that defense. It's probably the best defensive front in all of the National Football League, and that is not an over-exaggeration. They will be better this season coming. They have allowed themselves as an entire team and organization to embrace this new culture and this new way of doing things. A lot of people looked at the name change as a horrible nail in the coffin for an organization that has fallen so far from grace, but it actually was a reprieve. It actually gave way for a rebirth, and we saw that take place as the year went on. So I think they're a legitimate contending team in the NFC East. Depending on who they get at quarterback will dictate how much of a contender they are as a whole within the league itself.
Broussard, any final thoughts on the Bucs?
Well, look, I think, like I said, I think the Bucs are the team to beat out in the NFC. Green Bay obviously is a contender. You said it, LeVar. As long as Aaron Rodgers is there, they got to be in the mix. But I'm disappointed in them. I mean, is next year's season, is it going to be set up on more of a platter next year for them to get to the Super Bowl than it was this year? You had a top 10 defense. You had arguably the best receiver in the game. You had a good running game, one of the tops in the league. And you had home field advantage in Lambeau, which might be the greatest home field advantage in the league when it comes to the playoffs. And you still didn't get it done. You had a team that, to your point earlier, LeVar, didn't have an offseason to get to know each other in Tampa Bay and a 43-year-old quarterback, and you still didn't get it done. So while I certainly have to admit